One megacity always seems to be at the forefront of progressive movements, whether it's innovation in its cuisine, couture, infrastructure, or governance. This refuge for the rebel, artist, philosopher, and scientist has always held a place in the hearts of romantics and vanguards alike. Because here, in the City of Light, engineers and artists often share a line of sight. This is Paris, the grand megacity. 2,300 years ago, a group of Celtic Gauls called the Parisii settled on the Ile de la Cité, a small island in the middle of the Seine. After falling into the hands of the Roman Empire, the town grew, until the empire collapsed a short time later. Clovis, the first king to unite all the Frankish tribes in Paris, is the origin of the name Louis, taken by 18 subsequent French monarchs. For the next 1,000 years, or the period known as the Middle Ages, Paris saw rulers, religions, wars, and plagues come and go as it became the largest city in Europe. Home to one of the first universities and the birthplace of Gothic architecture, Paris was ground zero for the Enlightenment. Philosophies embracing individual liberty, religious tolerance, and the scientific method were perfectly captured by the phrase sapere aude, dare to know. In the end, the monarchy and the church were simply overmatched by the sheer power of a set of ideas whose time had come, ideas that were spread far and wide by books and pamphlets. The stage was set for revolution. On the afternoon of July 14, 1789, the Bastille, a medieval fortress and prison symbolizing royal authority in the center of Paris, was overtaken by force. It was the opening move in a 10-year struggle that featured the bloody overthrow of the monarchy, the establishment of the French Republic, and violent political turmoil. The dictatorship of Napoleon followed, delivering many principles of the revolution to much of Western Europe. By the middle of the 1800s, Paris had well over 1 million people, but was made up of tight streets and overpopulated, filthy alleyways. Life for many was a miserable, day-to-day struggle in disease-ridden slums. So Napoleon's nephew, who would become emperor himself, set out to make the city healthier, less congested, and grander. He turned to a clever man full of audacity and skill, the visionary urban planner Baron Haussmann. He imagined the modern city as a living organism, with the boulevards its arteries. Over the next 17 years, the duo oversaw the most epic public works spree since ancient Rome. Tens of thousands of workers were hired to carry out their plans, which included completely rebuilding the sewer system and installing hundreds of kilometers of pipes inside of it to distribute gas for thousands of new streetlights, 2 brand new rail stations connecting Paris to the rest of France, and more than 20 parks to ensure that none was more than a 10 minutes walk away from anyone. But the innovation that most transformed the city was Haussmann's dedication to wide boulevards, 12 of which converge on the roundabout circling the Arc de Triomphe. Throughout the 30-year undertaking, hundreds of thousands of people were displaced in phases as the entire city became a construction zone. This sacrifice, which wasn't always appreciated by the residents of Paris, was well worth the end result. The discipline to keep the buildings lining these avenues the same height, all faced with similar colored stone, created a striking visual effect. Over the next 100 years, Paris was thankfully spared the widespread destruction suffered by many other capitals in the wars and conflicts that unfolded across Europe. When the unthinkable happened in 1940 and Nazi flags were raised throughout Paris during the German occupation, Hitler declared the city too beautiful to bomb. Famous photos show him posing like a tourist at the base of the Eiffel Tower, which was the tallest building in the world at the time of its construction in 1889. Originally planned to be dismantled after 20 years, converting it into a radio tower saved it, and today it is the most visited landmark on the planet. Another signature site is the Louvre. Built and expanded over the course of 8 centuries, what was once the largest building in the world used to be a palace. That changed when the royals were thrown out during the French Revolution. Today, it is the most visited museum in the world. As the decades after the French and Allied victory in World War II stretched into the 21st century, Paris remained at the forefront in the battle of ideas, grappling with challenges like how best to educate its students, integrate immigrants and refugees, offer services to its people, and find a balance between security and liberty in the face of terrorism. But Paris has always come through the other side of struggles more unified and stronger. Just 2 weeks after suffering the deadliest attack on French soil since the Second World War, Paris hosted 196 countries in an effort to make progress on climate change. The French government is also focused on making sure the 12 million people who now call Paris home are well supported by world-class infrastructure. As it prepares to host the 2024 Summer Olympics, Paris is aiming to complete 2 mega projects, building 12 more towers in the La Défense financial district on the westernmost end of the 10-kilometer historical axis, and expanding the Paris Metro, adding 4 new lines and 68 stations to a system that is already the most extensive on the continent. These improvements will keep the city thriving for decades and ensure that the next generation of Parisians are positioned to lead on the challenges of the second half of the century. If you enjoyed this, check out my other megacity mini-docs and my rundown of the revolutions that changed the world. Next up, we'll explore Sao Paulo, Brazil. Until then,